Hey guys, I'm Chris and you're watching Restoration Rescue. We're going to be trying to button up the cab mounts this week so we can roll this thing back over and start working on some floors. Alright guys, so we're back here on the cab this week after we knocked out all our brake lines. We got our parts in, that's all set up now. But now we're going to move on to the bottom cab mount. So we did make a little bit of a mistake when we were doing this, when we were setting all this up. So we already welded it in here because we really didn't see how this was going to set up, and we thought we could cut back over here, and we can't. So we're going to have to pretty much drill these two spot welds back out, pull this off and move it to the side so we can cut out the bad metal and put in the new. I've already taken care of that side off camera, but what we're going to do now is we're going to start unbolting this and getting this one out. So as you can see, we did a lot. We have this thing pretty much where it needs to be, just need to be pushed in a little bit. But what we're going to talk about is these parts that come from LMC. Obviously it's for a 60 to 72, so there's a lot different spacing a little bit. So this right here, we pretty much just have to cut right off, as you can see right here. And then this has to be bent over, because I'm pretty sure when this comes in, we're supposed to weld this into the back piece when we do our cab mount, or our cab corners. And then you also have to take off a little here. For us though, we didn't use the whole thing. As you can see, we have good metal right here that we cut off some of this, and it's just a lot of cutting and shaving and just getting it right in the right spot. These things aren't perfect match to exactly what the size was. So it's just a lot of cutting, grinding, and getting it in the right spot. You have to also put in your own holes to bolt it in. We only had one hole because the nut on the back is gone, but that's okay. So we are right where we need to be. We're going to push this thing in and we're going to weld it on. So as you can see, we have this thing all welded in. I'm gonna sit here and pull this. This thing ain't going nowhere. We probably did over weld it a little bit. We laid a bead here, a bead here, a bead here. They're not the greatest, but they're work in progress. But you can see here, I tacked it and then tried to run a little bit of bead. It's a little bit thicker of a metal, which makes it a little tougher. Probably the best thing and the correct thing to do here is probably to do what we had before with the two spot welds that are right here. There's a little piece of metal that we put on last time, which I kind of hid from you guys because the weld was so bad on that side. But there's a spot weld that goes down into here. This thing's not really going anywhere. We have it all welded in, but we're gonna talk about something that you saw while we were going through that and a little bit of problem we ran into. So we're gonna come up here to our welder. As you saw, we had opened this and we had such a backlog of wire, and that comes to our tip. You can see that this tip had a lot of metal on it, and you can even see that the wire is not going in or really out of this very easily, and it was getting hung up and it was going back in the machine and clogging our machine. So what we had to do is come back in here, and you can see how our wire is nice and tight. What happened was it got really loose and it just bundled up in here. So you have to cut it and then literally like pull the wire all the way out until it's all out, and then put it back in. And then we just use the gun and let it go through. And then we got a new tip in there, so that's not going to be a problem. We could probably break this little piece of metal off and use this again, but I have more tips, and that's the reason I have more tips. So that is going to be a wrap for today's video. We have this thing welded in. We're going to take care of the other side off camera. We got a lot of cutting and a little grinding that we didn't put in today, but it is a lot of work what we did today, even though it doesn't look like much. But we'll see you guys next week when we continue welding and hopefully putting in some new floor pans.